Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into the AI world and all the buzz surrounding a company called DeepSeek.
Oh yeah, they've really stirred things up.
We've been coming through articles and research, and their claim is pretty bold. They say they've built an advanced AI model on a budget that's, well, shockingly small. The kind of model that usually needs, like, a server farm full of those expensive Nvidia GPUs.
It's the cost that's really caught everyone's eye.
Yeah, $6 million. That's,
A drop in the bucket, right? Especially when you consider what it normally takes.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, is that even possible? Are you buying this?
I'm definitely intrigued, but I'm also bringing a healthy dose of skepticism to the table, to be honest. I've talked to some industry experts, engineers who've been doing this for years, and they're pretty much all in agreement. A model of this caliber, on that budget, without a single H100 GPU, it just doesn't add up.
I can see why they'd be doubtful, but what's their reasoning?
Well, building these kinds of models, it's an incredibly resource-intensive process. Think tens of thousands of those H100 GPUs running nonstop. That's the kind of scale we're talking about. To give you an idea, one analyst compared it to finding genuine Hermes sneakers for sale in Times Square for like $30. Sure, it's a tempting offer, but...
You'd have to wonder, right? What's the catch?
Exactly. So, okay, let's play this out. Let's say DeepSeek is somehow pulling this off. What does that mean for the big players? Is Nvidia in trouble?
I think it's understandable why there was a bit of a, I don't know, a jitter in Nvidia's stock price when this news first hit.
Right, they took a little dip, yeah.
But let's be real here. Even if DeepSeek is doing exactly what they claim, it's unlikely to shake Nvidia's position in a significant way.
Okay, why not?
The AI landscape is evolving rapidly, but the reality is it's also poised for explosive growth. We're talking a potential surge of $2 trillion in spending over the next 3 years.
Trillion, wow. And who's driving that growth? Not small startups, it's the big players. Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, the whole crew. They're pouring resources into AI like never before.
So basically, even if DeepSeek has stumbled onto some secret sauce, the sheer scale of the industry's growth could just...
Overshadow it.
Exactly, just kind of swallow it up.
Right. Now, having said that, DeepSeek's claims do point to an interesting trend that's been gaining momentum. It's the rise of these open-source AI models.
Open-source models. So these are models that anyone can use, adapt, modify.
Precisely. Meta, for instance, they've jumped on this bandwagon and others are following suit. These open-source models, they're becoming more sophisticated all the time.
That's fascinating. I mean, it sounds like it could really democratize AI, right? Suddenly, smaller companies, maybe even individuals, they have access to these powerful tools.
And the potential benefits are pretty clear. Open-source models have the potential to drive down development costs significantly, and that could make AI technology more accessible to a much wider range of users. It's definitely a plus.
But I'm guessing there are some downsides, too.
Of course, we have to remember that AI, especially at the enterprise level, is incredibly complex. It's not just about having the model. You need massive data sets to train these models effectively, you need the know-how to develop sophisticated algorithms, and you need the expertise to tailor these models for specific uses. And that, well, that still favors the established players. They have the resources, the infrastructure, the experience.
So it's not as simple as just grabbing a free model and expecting it to work miracles. There's still a lot of heavy lifting involved.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about Apple for a moment. They've been relatively quiet amidst all this AI frenzy. And what's interesting is their stock price. Well, it didn't really flinch.
That is interesting. They're usually right in the thick of these tech showdowns.
What Apple has going for them is that they're not directly competing in the AI model development space. They're a platform.
The platform, okay.
Think of them as the stage where all these AI applications will ultimately play out.
So whether it's DeepSeek's model or OpenAI's or Google's, a large portion of users are going to be accessing them through Apple devices.
That's the idea. They're the facilitators, not the fighters, if you will.
Makes sense.
Some estimates suggest that nearly 25% of consumers worldwide will likely be interacting with AI through Apple devices, no matter who actually created the models powering those applications.
So DeepSeek's claims, they don't really move the needle for Apple's core business.
Not really, no.
It's a pretty clever position to be in. While everyone else is battling it out over the models themselves, Apple's providing the access point, the entryway to the AI experience for millions of people.
Right. And it highlights another layer to this whole conversation.
Which is?
It's not just about the technology, it's about the geopolitical landscape. We can't ignore the rising tension between the U.S. and China and how that's spilling over into the tech world.
Yeah, we've seen it with Huawei, with TikTok.
It's hard to miss, isn't it? There's a definite sense of a tech Cold War brewing.
Absolutely. What are you seeing in terms of the U.S. government's stance on all this?
Well, there's a growing concern about China's access to advanced technology. And that's likely to lead to more export controls on crucial tech, like AI chips, for example.
So that could potentially slow down China's progress in areas like,
Physical AI?
yeah, things like robotics, autonomous vehicles, all that.
Exactly. And that brings us back to companies like Apple, who have a big footprint in both the US and China. They're in a tricky spot.
They're walking a tightrope, aren't they?
They rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing, but they also have to navigate the political sensitivities on both sides. This tension, it could really force them to rethink their strategies, maybe even push them to partner with local Chinese companies, to comply with all the evolving regulations.
So it's not just a game of who builds the best AI.
No.
It's a game of who can maneuver through this incredibly complex web of technology and geopolitics.
It really is, and that's where things start to get even more fascinating. We're moving from a world of open collaboration to one of, I don't know, strategic alliances, maybe?
Yeah, like choosing sides almost.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
It's wild to think that something like a chip shortage could have such a big impact on the AI world. But before we go too far down that geopolitical rabbit hole, I'm still kind of hung up on DeepSeek. They've managed to generate a ton of buzz without really giving us a lot to go on. Like, what do we actually know about the technology behind their big claims?
That's the thing, isn't it? They've been pretty tight-lipped about the specifics of their model. Not many technical details out there, which honestly just fuels the skepticism even more.
Okay, so less talk, more mystery. But what are they saying exactly?
Their main claim is all about achieving performance on par with those leading AI models, but using way less computing power.
So it's about efficiency, like squeezing more out of less hardware. Is it some revolutionary algorithm they've come up with? Or maybe they found a way to optimize the hardware and software in some crazy way?
It's really hard to say without more transparency from DeepSeek. It could be a totally new algorithmic approach, or it could be some seriously clever optimizations in their tech stack. But until they give us more to work with, it's all speculation.
It feels like one of those magic tricks. The magician never reveals the secret.
And until that secret's out in the open, a lot of experts are going to be hesitant to buy into the hype. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right?
Makes sense. But even if their specific claims don't totally hold up under scrutiny, they've definitely tapped into a nerve. The fact that everyone's paying attention says something about the state of the AI industry right now, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's a feeling that things are changing so fast, like the rules could be rewritten overnight. And that kind of uncertainty, it makes even the biggest players a little uneasy.
We've been talking a lot about the companies that provide the tools, the hardware, the platforms, like Nvidia, Apple. But what about the companies that are actually using AI to solve problems, to build new products and services? How are they reacting to all this, especially to these bold claims from DeepSeek?
From what I've seen, most companies that are already using AI in their operations, they're taking a wait-and-see approach with DeepSeek. Their current projects and investments, those are staying pretty much on track.
So business as usual.
For now, pretty much. The demand for AI solutions is so high, and the field is moving so quickly that even a genuine breakthrough would take a while to have a major impact on the market.
It's like trying to turn a giant ship, right?
Exactly. And that ship, it's definitely heading towards a future where AI is deeply embedded in almost every part of our lives.
And that brings up another interesting point. We've talked about the companies building the AI, the companies building the hardware and the platforms, but what about the people who are actually using it? The everyday users who are interacting with AI more and more, often without even realizing it. What's the impact on them?
That's a really important question, and it's a complicated one. On the one hand, AI has the potential to revolutionize our lives in all sorts of positive ways. Things like personalized medicine, more efficient transportation systems, tools that help us be more creative and productive. The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
It almost feels like we're standing at the beginning of a new era, like an AI-powered renaissance.
There's definitely huge potential for positive change, but of course there are concerns too.
Right. Things like job displacement, algorithms that are biased, the erosion of privacy, those are serious issues that we can't just brush aside.
Exactly. And these concerns, they become even more pressing as AI gets more sophisticated, as it becomes more integrated into our lives. We need to be having honest conversations about how to develop and use AI responsibly to make sure that it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
It feels like we're at a crossroads, like there's a path that leads to a future where AI helps us solve our biggest problems, where it truly elevates humanity. And there's another path, one that leads somewhere a bit darker, a bit more dystopian.
That's a really powerful analogy. And the choices we make today, as individuals and as a society, they're going to determine which path we end up on.
So what can we do? As individuals, what can we do to make sure AI is used for good? It can feel so overwhelming sometimes, like we're just along for the ride,
The first step is to stay informed. Understand how AI works, what it can do, and what it can't do. Understand its limitations. and then engage in thoughtful discussions about the ethical implications. Support policies that put human well-being front and center.
So it's about being informed, being engaged, being proactive.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and passively accept whatever the future throws at us. We need to actively shape that future with intention, with a critical eye.
I like that. So let's recap for a second. We've covered a lot of ground here. DeepSeek's claims, Nvidia's position in the market, Apple's strategic approach, the geopolitical tensions that are looming over everything. We even touched on the ethical questions surrounding AI and how we as individuals can play a role in shaping its future.
It's amazing how all these different pieces connect, isn't it?
It really is. It's like we're unraveling this incredibly complex tapestry, and each thread reveals a new pattern, a new layer of meaning. And speaking of layers, you mentioned earlier that things were about to get even more interesting. What did you mean by that?
I think what makes this whole AI thing so captivating is that it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the human side of it too. We're talking about the future of work, how we define creativity, what it even means to be human when these incredibly intelligent machines are becoming more and more prevalent.
It's like AI is forcing us to rethink our place in the world.
It really is, and the lines are getting blurrier all the time, between what's a tool and what's an entity. We're used to thinking of technology as something we control, something that serves us. But when that technology starts to show signs of what we consider intelligence, maybe even consciousness, it makes you question everything.
I can see that. It's a pretty fundamental shift in how we view the world and our role in it.
And this shift is happening right alongside those geopolitical tensions we talked about, maybe even being driven by them. The rivalry between the U.S. and China, it's not just about who has the bigger economy anymore. It's about who gets to control the future of AI, which, in a way, means controlling the future of humanity.
It's not just about building the best AI. It's about deciding what AI is, what its purpose is, how it should be used.
Exactly, and those decisions will have a huge impact on everything, our societies, our economies, even our own identities. We could see power structures shifting globally, new ethical dilemmas popping up left and right, a future that's completely different from anything we can imagine right now.
That's both exciting and a little scary to think about. It's a huge turning point, but where it leads, well, nobody knows for sure.
And that uncertainty, that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating to explore. The future of AI isn't set in stone. We're creating it right now with the choices we make, the conversations we have, the actions we take.
That's a good reminder that we're not just passengers on this crazy train. We have the power to steer it in the right direction. We have a responsibility to make sure AI is used to make things better for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This deep dive, it's taken us everywhere. From those wild claims by DeepSeek to open source models, from the strategies of companies like Apple and Nvidia to the whole geopolitical landscape. And what ties it all together is us, the human element.
It's true. At the end of the day, no matter how advanced it gets, technology always reflects who we are, our values, our hopes for the future.
And we can't lose sight of that human connection as we continue to bring AI into our lives.
This has been a truly fascinating conversation, and I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface of what's going to be a defining moment in human history.
I think you're right, this conversation, it's going to keep going for a long time.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you some insights and maybe even sparked some new questions for you to ponder. As AI keeps evolving, stay curious, stay involved, stay informed. The future is being written right now, and we all have a part to play in shaping it. Thanks for joining us on this journey.